The Great Man is directed by the Russo Brothers and stars Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Anna de Armas, and among others. In this story, it deals with a CIA operative that goes by the name Sierra Six, played by Ryan Gosling, and he essentially, if you see him from the trailers, he basically goes on the run after some stuff goes down where he pretty much ends up taking this drive that has to do with corruption of the agency that he's in, and he's essentially hunted down by Chris Evans's character Lloyd Hansen along the way, and along the way he has to survive from the agency. Now here's a little backstory. Now this movie was directed by the Russo brothers, who I've actually been a really big fan of ever since I've seen a lot of their earlier stuff with the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, including Captain America, The Winter Soldier, and Civil War, and also most notably the Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, which all four I thought were phenomenal films. And these directors have really proven themselves to be really great, top-notch action directors, and really carrying a lot of the grit and kind of like a very heavy stuff that I really enjoy when it comes to action scenes in their movies, and being able to work with like really big, high-profile actors like these. And after upon really getting the interest in, after upon hearing the news that they were going to be doing other films after Avengers Endgame, it got me interested. I haven't seen their other film they directed, Cherry, with Tom Holland, but I might probably check that out one of these days. But I heard that one didn't do too well. But I was interested with this one to see what they were doing after Avengers Endgame, because the whole like premise of essentially Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans going after each other, I thought was basically remind me of like some of those movies that we got from the '90s, like Assassins and like Face Off and stuff like that, where you have, two like high profile action stars just going after each other and stuff, and dealing with like witty dialogue that goes on a lot of throughout the movie. And so, after upon seeing the film, I can say that I had a blast with this movie. This, to me, I think was a great like throwback to '90s movies that I've thought, including Broken Arrow and in that kind of era with John Woo's kind of movies. Not on the same style, but on that similar feel of like very cool dialogue where you have like characters that are speaking certain quips here and there, and you have like really good choreographed fight scenes and just a lot of great stuff that you really want to check with how it does in a very good fast pace. Now to get my pros out of the way, I love the cast in this. I thought Ryan Gosling was really great. I'm glad to see that he's doing more action movies again, because while he's really more known for drama and a lot more character driven stuff, I really do like the fact that he's still, carrying these kind of roles and keeping it very, keeping those very like stoic type of, as like the kind of performances that he did with like Blade Runner 2049, and even in his earlier stuff like with Drive. And so I think this is on like the same level as those performances, and he really does carry it as all. And the rest of the cast is great too. I'm glad to see Anna de Armas is getting a lot more attention, especially since last year, since she started doing more action stuff with No Time to Die, and I think that she really has the skills to pull it off with a lot of future movies. And here it really gets to showcase a lot more of what she can do, and she's really a blast. And the other big standout for me the most is definitely Chris Evans. Like, his performance was not only fun to watch because of how over the top he is and a lot of the dialogue they give him, but he did, in a way, his performance reminded me a lot of like John Travolta's villain role playing in like Face Off and in Broken Arrow. Just that kind of like cool, like kind of wisecracking kind of villain that's throwing one-liners here and there, and he hams it up, but in a really fun way that I just couldn't get enough out of it. And then the rest of my pros, I really got to appreciate the action scenes in this. Like, you can tell that a lot of the fight scenes that they put into emphasis on, they're really good. There are a couple of times where it does get a little shaky at times, and they're very, very fast edits that take place. But for the most part, I was really able to see everything fine, and they really had me it had a lot of energy to it, and I really enjoy a lot of the fight scenes that took place, especially or when we get into some of the parts that involve where they introduce this other assassin that takes place that I forgot the actor's name, but I hear he's big in India. But I thought he was really a blast too, and I forgot to mention him. And then of course the fight scene that happens with Chris Evans and Ryan Gosling I thought was fantastic too. And so there's a lot of great stuff that the Russo brothers were able to capture in the action department. And there's even one sequence that I can't get into detail, but they really go out in their way on showing the spectacle of it, because man, they really don't hold back on when they get into this long chase sequence that takes place, because I thought that was actually one of the biggest highlights I had with the movie. And then just the rest of the movie, the way that we kind of get into some other stuff that involves with Ryan Gosling's character, I thought was interesting with how it was playing around. But I do kind of have some mixed feelings on it as far as like writing aspects, because there's some stuff that they felt a little bit rushed on that we didn't really get much emphasis on with it. That I'll get into some of my later cons with. But the movie just has a really good, fun, fast-paced vibe to it that I really enjoy for the most part. But it also, in some ways, it does kind of hinder for the rest of the film because it doesn't really let time to breathe with a lot of scenes. But the other biggest things I'm really going to enjoy is I definitely love the music. I thought it was very intense, and it really had you on that really, the theme song they play in this, it had me on the edge. And in a weird way, I don't know why, but it feels like this could make a double feature with like Tenet, in the way that the music is kind of like on that level, so to speak. And keep in mind, I enjoyed Tenet, but I didn't think it was like great as I thought it would be. But I still think that on that level, as far as the music and the intensity that the scenes build up and stuff, it is almost on that level, so to speak. Now, this is kind of where I get into a little bit of my cons. And while I did have a lot of fun with the movie, I did feel like the pacing was what really made it feel like it was too much like boom, 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 going action scene, and then getting a little bit of like downtime with trying to get to know characters and stuff. But it really doesn't really seem like they spend a whole lot of time with it, because anytime that they kind of stop for a moment, we're supposed to get into scenes that are supposed to be very relevant, but they introduce other characters that come along with the film, or characters that are from previous scenes, and it seems like there was a whole lot of stuff that was missing, that either from deleted scenes or whatever, that felt very rushed. And even the beginning, when they're starting to go into this whole assassination vibe, it really seems like they glossed over it, because there seemed like there was a whole other like at least 5-10 minutes that they could have built up more before we get into the main part of the film. That I think that they really could have spent more time on in order for us to really see where Ryan Gosling's character is going through, because it seems like there's a lot of stuff that they add with the writing where it almost seems like there's a movie that's in between after the prologue. And so that's why it really seemed like this is the kind of film that probably either needs a prequel or a spin-off to kind of explore some other stuff that we didn't get. Because it does feel very rushed at times. And on top of that, there's a lot of sequences where there's a couple points where some of the fight scenes can be a little up close and they're hard to focus in. But I was still able to still see them fine, but you can still see that they do get a little like a little too fast or too hyper editing, where it's almost like watching bad comparison, but it's like one of, in a couple parts it does seem like I'm watching one of the Taken sequels. Not nearly on that level, but I'm just saying, like, especially with Taken 3 and something like that. But the other thing too, I will say, there is some noticeable CGI a couple of times that was pretty not too rendered too well. But for the most part, though, I was able to bypass those because I still had a lot of fun with the movie. And there's a lot of things that they really could have built a lot more for with its writing. But I still had a blast, and I really do think that if they do a sequel to this, I would definitely be interested in it. Or if they end up doing that spin-off they talked about, because I think that they actually did build some really good stuff in the movie, but you could tell there's a lot of things they really left a lot of holes on. But with that being said, I really did find myself enjoying it for the most part, and with that, I'm going to give the movie a very very extremely low compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. So, those of you who have also seen The Gray Man, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.